one man to beat. Makes the move at midfield. Coming to the near side at the 30. He's at the 20. He's at the 10. 5. Touchdown, Kentucky.
Back in for another episode of Believe in Kentucky. Got Aaron Gershon from the Cat's Paws from UKQB. Jalen Whitlow streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, courtesy of the Believe Podcast Network. So y'all jump in with your comments, subscribe, follow, tell your friends, check out the show. We're about to jump right on into it, fellas. We are, fan days come and gone. We got practices to talk about, got interviews to talk about, all that good stuff. Because first we got backtrack, as we talked about before we started. The news came down from the NCAA with the discipline, with the vacation of the wins. AG, I think you and I talked about this back, because I don't get sources like you. Mm-hmm. But I had a source. I had a person DM me on Twitter.
That's right.
Exactly
yep.
What was happening. Was about to go down, and they nailed it. And then we had, C-Rod suspended and all that whole
Jordan
thing.
Wright. Yep.
Yeah. And so that's 2 or 3 years ago, back when that was going down. And now you said they knew this was coming, and here it is, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And look, I think the important thing to note, I think the first thing that UK wanted to make sure was out there and that needed to be said is this doesn't affect this season. There's no bowl ban or anything like that. It also, from my understanding, it's not even going to affect recruiting. So those are the two most important things, and neither of them are being touched. So that's the good news. Look, vacated wins, we see it everywhere, right? It's not, I think, I don't know just how many. Look, Louisville won the national championship in 2013. Okay, just because it's vacated, you're not going to take that away from Peyton Siva and the guys on that team, Rick Pitino. You're just not. And I think the same can be said now for the 21 Cats, where they didn't win a national championship, but are you going to go tell DeAndre Square he didn't have that game-winning pick on one leg? Like, are you going to go tell Will Levis he didn't just run the ball down Louisville's throats all game and score 4 touchdowns, whatever it was that game? You're going to tell Trevin Wallace his kick 6 didn't count against Florida, and all the stats still count. All the individual things still count. It's just, those wins are erased from the NCAA book, whatever. Who cares is my thing with the vacated wins. Just Louisville won in 2013. I don't know exactly what years, whatever Tennessee, those vacated wins under Pruitt, they won those games. It's all, to me, the vacated wins is a formality. It is what it is. If Kentucky, from the report, it was clear that the coaching staff had no involvement / knowledge of what was going on. And they self-reported the infractions as soon as they came up. I guess the thing with UK healthcare or UK hospital, whichever one it was, that, like you said, Vinny, the person that DM'd you was on, and that was the word on the street within Lexington as well. The only 2 players we know, there were 11 players involved in it. We only know Chris Rodriguez and Jordan Wright for sure, because those guys were sitting out games that season. But they didn't know they were ineligible players at the time. That's why you go back in hindsight and, those wins are vacated. And look, we're going to see things happen. We already saw the show clause. And if John Harbaugh comes back to college football, he's facing a 1-year suspension. I wouldn't be surprised with all the sign stealing and all the crap going on at Ann Arbor that championship is vacated. They're still going to be the national champions, Michigan. So it's just, to me, it's all formality. It is what it is. They did what they did the right thing, self-reporting. They paid for their sins, their crimes, whatever, and you move on. And at the end of the day, this doesn't affect the 24 season, 25, 26. It's in the past, but maybe the wins don't count on the record books. We all remember those wins. You're not going to take it away from any of the guys on the roster. Whatever. To me, it's a bunch of it's a nothing burger that we just have to talk about because it's big news.
Yeah, I mean, you took the words right from me. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sure Stoops isn't losing sleep over it.
He's probably thrilled because it doesn't affect the here and now.
Right. I'm sure. I mean, at the end of the day, who cares? the NCAA has become so irrelevant at this point to where I don't think people really care what they do, what they say. It's one of those things where you're right. Michigan, that championship eventually will get vacated. And at the end of the day, everybody still made those tackles. They still blocked for those guys. Those guys still scored those touchdowns. I mean, the coaches still experienced coaching that game. It's done. It is what it is. Those kids, you can't take the rings from them. You can't go in each individual home and take their championship rings from them at the end of the day. So, nobody cares, man. I saw the headline. I didn't even read into what it was. I just didn't care. At the end of the day, 2021 Kentucky football is a great football team, and that's all that matters. I mean, people don't care. So,
couldn't agree more.
And like I said, at Kentucky, and we just talked about this pre-show, but you got to do what you got to do. I'm not saying you got to break the rules, but the rules are being bent everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's bending the rules in some form or fashion. Kentucky has to recruit alongside Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M, Oklahoma. It is what it is, man. You got to bend the rules at some point. I'm not saying you got to break them, but you got to take them to their links in and do what you got to do to get what you got to get, especially when it comes to recruiting. So, that goes on everywhere for the most part. If you go audit everybody tooth and nail, you got to find some dirt. You got to find some dirt, man. It is what it is. So, and that goes on down to high school, to some little league programs. You go look far enough, you're gonna find something that you probably can deem as quote unquote cheating or an unfair advantage. So it's the nature of the beast. Anytime there's competition, there's people who are willing to kind of tiptoe that line, in business and sports. So there's just the NCAA looks for things, and when they catch something, it's like a ding. We're relevant. We just caught you. That type of thing. I just really believe that they're doing these things to try to flex their power. They know that thing is withering away. And sooner or later, this thing is not really going to matter. When it comes to NCAA, it's going to be all about the conferences and the super conferences and who's governing those, and that type of thing. So I have to say, who cares? It is what it is.
I agree. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So definitely had to at least touch on that, and then and I think maybe in a lot of fans' minds, it maybe felt deflating because here we are right at the start of the season. Oh man, it's fan day. Oh, here we go. Right, it's right when things are all this excitement. Then you hear that. And then if you haven't really read all the details about, how it is, no bowl ban, no everything like you alluded to, Aaron, then you can kind of be like, oh, okay, it wasn't really much of anything. But when you first hear that, it sounds like, oh man, but it really wasn't. So,
no. Yeah, bowl ban would have got tricky because then you go into the season like you feel like you have nothing to play for.
Yeah.
Like we saw that. What was it? I think it was Missouri in 21 where they kind of got a questionable bowl ban, and they had a decent roster. It wasn't a terrible team. They came in, I think, to Kroger Field week 2 that year, and they played pretty well. I think it was 2021. That was the year they had the bowl ban. But like the motivation's not there because there's no end goal when you have a bowl ban. So, you'd be building up for this season where we all agree it's a really good roster. It's just we'll see what they can do with the schedule. But like you'd be going into it with a group that's not going to be as motivated, and how could you be? So, really good to have that not matter, and then the recruiting aspect too. I mean, it's important now. More than ever to get to that 85 scholarship number and or at least have it open to you. And it would have hurt if you had to go any less, especially now that they're going to start trimming the amount of walk-ons you could have. So, you really got to fill those scholarships up and have as many guys as you can. So it's not going to affect that either. It doesn't seem. So again, big nothing burger, and all things are good going into 24, at least from not having to worry about that standpoint.
So then that went right on into the weekend, which you were there for Fan Day and Media Day. And what did you glean or observe or pick up on from all that?
Yeah, Friday we got to do part of practice, really just 1-11 on 11th period, and then all practice there with the fans on Saturday. I think, first of all, Friday didn't get too much from, because really the only 11 on 11 period, they were just running the ball and playing, and it was play action plays. And with Kentucky's defensive line and just the predictability, don't want to talk about it from an offensive standpoint. Defense dominated. It was what it was. But Saturday, I think it was, look, I think the defense still had their place. I mean, there weren't any interceptions I can think of off the top of my head, but there were definitely some really nice pass breakups, which you want to see, honestly, because there's competition at the cornerback spot. I thought Nasir Addison had a really good day at that position. Ty Bryant at safety got beat on one play, but otherwise he was really good, had some really, really good coverage on one play in particular against Brown Stevens there. Defensive line is just – they're really good, man. That whole front seven, they have a chance to just cause so much havoc. J.J. Weaver had a really nice pass breakup. Deion Walker is just a menace. I mean, they have all the ingredients they need there. But offensively, which is obviously the more fun part, I thought Brock Vandegrift looked great. I really did. I mean, he's definitely a guy that I think, and Jalen, you could probably talk more about this and just what it takes for the maturity of a quarterback in this realm. I think an area they struggled both with Devin Leary and Will Levis his second year, and maybe even his first year too, is just taking what the defense gives you, whether that's runs or checkdowns. And I didn't see Brock Vandegrift force anything. I think when there was a check down there and the play downfield wasn't there, he was taking it. If he had the room to run and get out of the pocket, he was taking that. Like, I was very, very impressed from that aspect. I didn't see that from Leary either in these practices or on the field in games last year. And I don't think, honestly, that was the one big complaint with Will Levis. Like, take the check down, make it easy. Like, come on. So I was really, really impressed from that standpoint with Vandegrift. Same with Jamori Macklin, just kind of able to find on those curl routes, find soft spots in the defense and make some plays. Fred Ferrier, the Frankfurt native, I thought was only really did second team, but he was excellent. He was burning some first team corners. So really impressed with that. And then, you know what you're getting with Marion and Dane. I think both those guys probably, Dane looks, from a body perspective, looks much more put together. I think he's up to 210 pounds and it's noticeable. He's definitely a bigger guy from a muscle standpoint than we've seen the past 2 years. And then, Barry Brown body wise looks about the same, but I've heard some good things about some of the work he's done off the field, just bringing his maturity to the next level. And then, I'll leave it with depth chart and injury things. Josh Caddis wasn't out there either day. Sounds like just a soft tissue thing. He should be fine. Didn't see Cortland Ford at all. I don't know what's going on there. I know he missed spring camp with I think he was coming off wrist surgery. So I don't know what was going on, but I did not see him at either practice. Tyrese Fairbury was working on the side. And that was about it from an injury standpoint. The four we know: Josiah Hayes, Tavian Gadsden, Darren Henry Young, the freshman Quavo Marshall, all probably going to be out for the season. So obviously those guys weren't out there either. And then depth chart wise, very clear that the starting offensive line, unless an injury pops up from left to right, it's going to be Marcus Cox, Jagger Burton, Eli Cox, Jalen Farmer, Gerald Mincy. That tackle spot now that I thought Cortland Ford would kind of be the swing, it seems like Malachi Wood is in line to be the backup left tackle. And then I can't even pronounce his last name. I think Kreese is how to pronounce the last name. He's a JUCO transfer, was kind of sliding in as the backup right tackle. And then tight end wise, I think Willie Rodriguez is a guy who's going to see the field a lot, similarly to Josh Caddis his freshman year. I think he definitely didn't look like a freshman out there. He was getting some run with the ones. I think he's a guy who's going to play early. I don't think that's a guy who's redshirting. And then lastly, just defensive wise, or I guess I'll go defense and special teams depth chart wise. I definitely think Jansen Dunn's starter at corner. I think they might honestly use him the way they used Andrew Phillips, which is where when they had three corners on the field, they'll bring someone to play outside, whether that be J.Q. Hardaway or even Zion Childress was taking reps in the nickel. Maybe they move Childress to the nickel and keep Dunn outside, but I think Dunn's going to play the majority of the snaps, or they could do it like they did last year where they'll play Dunn in the slot when they have three corners, and then J.Q. Hardaway, DJ Waller, and Nasir Addison battle for that spot to play outside like Jordan Robinson did last year. So that was really the noticeable thing on the depth chart. And specials wise, there's at least, I think there's a sneaky kicker competition going on, which is a little surprising because Alex Rayner was 10 for 11 last year, but the freshman they brought in from Montana, Jacob Quay, was sitting from 45-50 there, and he was getting the 1 reps on Saturday. Rayner got him on Friday. And Stoops, I asked him about the new punter, just about specials and finishing kind of that rebuild there, because they did bring in a new partner who's an FCS All-American, and they that was kind of the last aspect of special teams that didn't take the step it needed to last year. And he wanted to talk about Jacob Quay and said, he said maybe he'll hit a few this year too, when he was talking about him being the future kicker. So I think there might be a sneaky kicker competition going on. So that's something to watch, but that would be kind of emptying the notebook there. But if we want to go back to Jalen there with the quarterback, I think the ability to take some of those checkdowns and take some of the simple things is something Kentucky's been missing at the quarterback position the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because, it seems like every clip I've been seeing from the offense on social media has been like absolute bombs down the field.
They want to show that off, yeah. And there were some of them. Don't get me wrong, there were some, and there were some of those. But I was very impressed that it wasn't only that, because that felt like that was the total offense last year, as an explosive player bust. Yeah,
and definitely from on the computer or on the phone or tablet virtually, it looks like Dan Key has definitely put on some weight.
No doubt about it.
I think it's beneficial. I mean, he's not a speed guy, so why not? You know what I mean? Why not put on that extra size if you can, and just get stronger and become more of a bigger body possession type guy? 6'3", 210 is pretty good. As long as he can still move relatively well and whatnot, so that's good. But yeah, going back to the quarterback thing, I think it's good, man. And like I said, pre-show, I've been hearing some good things coming from that, from the quarterback position and just the offense in general. The players love the offense. Seems like Stoops loved the offense based on his interviews and whatnot. I wouldn't say the actual blocking schemes in the run game, but it seems to me that the way that they approach the run game with the different, more spreadish mentality, is adding a little bit of flair to it, as opposed to the pro stylish mentality. Nothing wrong with either. At the end of the day, people win national championships with both. I do think it's a little bit more fun when you're in the gun and you got a quarterback who move a little bit, and they're doing some good things. I've been hearing good things about Cutter Boley as well.
Yeah. So
I've been hearing that the quarterback room is as good as it's ever been. From talking, Bo Allen adds some depth and some experience there too. You got Cutter Boley and
Gavin Wimsatt. I think so. He's interesting. Obviously, he's the most experienced guy in the room, which is obviously a little odd given he's not going to be the starter. But you look at his stats from Rutgers, and he's not a very accurate passer. He's under 50%. It was sporadic for sure. When he was thrown on Saturday, there were some really good plays down the field and there were some clear misses, but they're going to use them in run packages because, they're going to run the ball. I mean, they said they want to hand it off 30 times a game. Bush Hamden's always had a 1,000-yard rusher. They're going to run the ball. So I think you're going to see some unique things, whether they bring in Wimsatt in a Wildcat package, whether they have two quarterbacks on the field. That kid's going to play, and he's the clear 2. It's Vandergriff 1, Wimsatt 2, and then Cutter 3, and then Allen's the 4th guy.
Yeah, and I think that 2 spot may be kind of 2A, 2B with Cutter and the other one.
Yeah, Cutter's pushing.
And there's a when the coaches come out in the media and say that this kid is going to have a package, that he's going to have a package in offense when it comes to running the football, because they believe that they said, I think it was Bush Hamden spoke of it and said that he's probably one of the best ball carriers on the team.
Yes, he did.
And he has to have a package. And even 2 quarterback, which I love. I think more people should do more 2 quarterback stuff, in my opinion. with two quarterbacks on the field and both of them have the ability to throw the football and run the football, as a defense, that's a nightmare to game plan for. You got the defense where you want them now. And Kansas, we saw Kansas do some of it. There's been teams in the past that have done it where, I mean, they'll hand up, and we did it last year in high school. We'll hand the ball off to the guy, and now he's running the pass play. Now he's running naked or the spread out after we hand it off to him. And we had a situation last year where our starting quarterback was really good, all region, all state, but he was challenged. Throwing the ball down the field was a challenge for him. So we had another kid who could throw the ball down the field better, like vertically. And sometimes we would hand it to him to allow him to throw it down the field vertically. So that's stuff that, they can get into if they wanted to. Now, I'm not saying that they have to throw it vertically with the guy, but I think they got a good enough quarterback throwing it vertically right now. But I think, if you ever wanted to put a defense on their heels, man, put your running back in the game, have both quarterbacks in the game and a tight end in the game, and or just both quarterbacks, two tight ends and a receiver. It's tough. It's tough on the defense, and I think the fact that he said that in the media means they probably have already been practicing it or installing some of that stuff. Because
and we saw some of it for sure.
Yeah. So that's cool, man. I can't wait to see that type of stuff. But just going back to the quarterback getting checkdowns and whatnot, that's good to hear because you never want to have a quarterback that, especially as old as Brock is, that's been in college football for a couple of years, to be a guy that's always making mistakes, forcing the ball into coverage. That's the quickest way to not be successful on offense if your quarterback is giving the ball to the other team. So you want him to be able to take what the defense gives you. You got enough talent. They're in the spot now at Kentucky. Now, obviously, it depends on who they're playing, but it really don't matter when it comes to open field because, in my opinion, the games are won in the trenches, in the box. Yeah. The games aren't won as much and with the skill positions as much. You can say that some are, but the games are won in the box. But when you got a receiver or a running back or a tight end who can make plays in space, it don't matter who you're playing. It don't matter if you're playing Bama, Georgia, Texas. At the end of the day, if you feel like you got a player who can play well in space and you got a quarterback who can check it down to him and not force the ball down the field, that 2-yard completion always turns into 10, 12, 15, always, and especially in college. Not all the time in the NFL. Eventually in the NFL too. I mean, they call Tom Brady was check down Charlie. I mean, he's throwing 2 and 3 yard routes. I go back and watch the Super Bowl where they played the Seahawks in 14. And he was, I mean, they were
checking the ball down all game.
The whole game. And he ended up with how many yards passing? Because the guy would eventually break a tackle. And when you play in man coverage, everybody has their back turned running with their receivers. So you break a tackle, now you got a lot of grass. So, that's hard to get young quarterbacks to understand. Like, you don't have to throw the ball downfield for the play to be positive. Like, you can throw a 2-yard route and a guy don't even have to make him miss. He just has to get some type of leverage. And let's say that defender tackles him. You just threw a 2-yard route and your guy falls forward with leverage. That's now a 6-yard completion. And eventually human error is going to take place where that guy's going to miss that open field tackle. And now you're going to go 15 yards. So to have a quarterback that understands that can always keep you ahead of the sticks if you got good scheme. So that's exciting. And what I'm hearing from about, Brock, his ability to run the ball and he's throwing the ball well, and you got another quarterback who can come in there and run the ball well, it sounds like a good offense to me, moving forward. So we'll see. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to what they can do up front. And if they can stay healthy and continue to get better in the run game up front. But if they can run the ball, and Jamori Macklin is a dog from what I hear.
Oh, I've heard amazing. Yeah.
So
I saw it. Like that dude's getting overlooked.
Then you got 5 as well. What's 5 name receiver?
Brown Stevens. Yeah, I think they're genuinely. I would say 5 for this year. I'd say 5 to 6 deep at that spot. Like I think they'll cap it at 6. I think. Obviously, the 3 starters, you're going to have Dane Key and Barryon Brown outside. You're going to have Jamori Macklin in the slot. I think it's going to be from 4 and 5. It's going to be either Brown Stevens or Fred Farrier in that order. One in either order. I don't know what it's going to be, but those 2 guys they're going to see time, especially Farrier. He was he was really, really good at this open practice the other day. Like, he's a guy that I've heard has just kind of put his head down and gone to work. He's a little bit, his numbers at UAB are a little sneaky too. Like, he wasn't a starter there. I think actually he was a part-time starter last year. I think he started 7 games, almost 400 yards. I think the yards per catch were 14.8. So you're talking about a guy who, has some explosive playability there. So I just think he's going to work himself into a role. It's going to be interesting between him and AB, Anthony Brown-Stevens, who's going to be the fourth guy. But and then Hardly Gilmore, the freshman. I don't think they're redshirting him. I just don't. I think he's impressed too much to be redshirted at this point.
Yeah, and when you're talking about a freshman tight end, and according to Big Dog, the freshman tight end will play.
He's going to play.
That tells me that they have extremely good competition in that room, which is always going to push the seniors and juniors to be even better, because you don't want a freshman taking your snaps. So that, like I said, if they stay healthy and everything and continue to improve, hopefully we see the best offense yet under Stoops.
You mentioned how hard potentially they can make it on the defense if they choose to go 2 quarterbacks, and you got a package for Wimsett, and then what Vandergrift can do, tight ends, receivers. If they choose to do that, you talk about it puts the defense on his heels. It's a nightmare to prepare for. How tough is it to coordinate that in practice to have it ready as on the offensive side? Is it tough to get the other 10 guys in sync with 2 quarterbacks, to get the 2 quarterbacks to both realize that, hey, we're going 2 quarterbacks? I don't know if it's a devil's advocate maybe, but how tough, or is it tough at all, to get that ready to cause the defense all these problems?
Yeah, it's always been fun for me. It's a challenge because, creatively, it's a creative challenge. And you always feel, it's good and bad, because sometimes you feel like you're taking another good player off the field to put another quarterback on the field, when technically you only need 1 quarterback to play football. But which you really don't need any quarterbacks to play football, but that's besides the point. But, so it's always a challenge with that, because you're taking a guy who wants to be on the field off the field. Right. And especially when you take a running back or a receiver off the field, they feel like they need to be on the field. Receivers run a lot of routes, man. If you check their GPS thing after the game, they run a lot of steps, a lot of miles sometimes, and they may only get the ball 1 or 2 or 3 times in a game, and you take them out of the game to put another quarterback in. But if you got an unselfish team and you got a coach that can make sure they can make sure their players are understanding why they're doing it, and it's tough on the defense, because if you're handing the ball off to a guy who can run the ball, but he can throw it too, right? They're taught to want defensive players are wired. You see that ball handed off, go get the ball. That's how they're wired. But you popping back up and you're throwing it. That's like, in my opinion, this is where football is going towards this, in my opinion. I believe, and I said this last year to our coaching staff, I'm like, this is what you're going to see more of in football. People have been doing it. It's like you can go back to the 1930s and see people running RPOs. People have been doing it. You can go back. Literally, there was a team in the 50s running RPOs, literally, like running real RPOs in the 50s. So that none of this stuff is new. There's nothing new under the sun. But I think this is where football is trending to, where you're going to see more and more teams doing this type of stuff. And right now it's like sub packages for teams. But I think you're going to get to the point where you're going to see a really powerful program that this is what they do. And it's going to change the way football is viewed, because there's so many things that you can do when you do this stuff. Like, I wish I could share my screen and show like some stuff, because we did some stuff last year that was pretty cool. And I just fell in love with it, because it's so fun. Like, it takes the sails out of the wind out of the sails of the defense. When they see that ball tossed or handed off, But now you got the guy who you're tossing it to can not only can he throw the ball, but he's a quarterback. He can go through progressions and throw the ball. He can throw the ball with precision. He's not just lobbing the ball up there. He can actually read a defense once he's caught it and still throw the ball as if he took the snap. And I think that you're going to see more and more and more of that, here in the near future. So if they can do that, I'm not sure if they'll buy into that. Stoops is kind of a traditionalist, in a lot of ways. But he also understands the pulse of his players and his team too. And he knows what's coming and what's around the corner. He knows what helps. So we'll see, man. But to answer your question, it's a challenge creatively, and it's a challenge to take another great player off the field. But it's also a way to keep your second quarterback involved in the game plan. It's a way to kind of, throw something at the defense that we know that they haven't seen. You know what I mean? Because you can guarantee going into a game, for a fact that the defense haven't seen this. And that's always good to, present on game day. So it's good.
I got to figure out too, work on the screen sharing stuff. So we can start sharing that kind of stuff or figuring it out, or either, send it to me or figure out how to share yours. Cause it's cool to incorporate some video type stuff. I just gotta get techie enough to figure out how it works on here. It's a little different than other screen sharing. I don't know if we can say that other company when we're using what we use on StreamYard. I don't know if we can say the other one, but the screen sharing is a little different when you on that 4-letter. we on the StreamYard now. So anyway, so we had some guys talk. We had we had the fan day. We had a couple of practices, AG, that you've seen. And was it the offense talk yesterday, right? So defense today, is that how it was?
Defense will be tomorrow. Yeah, nothing.
Okay.
So yeah, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays during the fall camp weeks, and then we'll go to 4 days a week when we get to the week before the season.
And Stoops is going to speak Saturday. So it's okay. So
yeah, defense. So yeah, offense Tuesdays, defense Thursdays, Stoops and a player or two on Saturdays, and then we'll get it the normal 4 days a week when we go to the season in a week and a half or so, or the week before the season, week and a half, not quite a week and a half. I wish, but yeah.
So he's been around for a while. You covered him for a while, Dylan. You played for him. First week in the books, Saturday, you getting the piss Stoops, you getting the positive Stoops, you getting the in between Stoops. You're gonna get some version. Is he gonna be?
Yeah.
We don't know how the practices have gone, but what are you going to get from his first time speaking after the first week of practice on Saturday?
I have no idea what to expect. I'll say
you hope that defense played well.
Yeah, defense better play well. They better be they need to be just with it. They need to not be lazy. They need to bring it. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting. He could be pissed off. He could be thrilled. He could just say nothing. We'll find out Saturday. But
and it changes by the day. Y'all what you talked last year?
Oh yeah,
you got the pissed off, and it was kind of calculated pissed off because then
was that at a fall camp or was that a spring practice? I can't remember.
But he was
spring practice.
Oh, he was spring. He was freaking pissed. Yeah, he wears. Look, he says I'm not going to say that much, but he does wears emotions on his sleeve a little bit, so you can kind of at least sense the mood that guy's in. So yeah, look. I hope for the team's sake and for his sake it goes well, obviously. But yeah, first scrimmage is going to be on Saturday. I think there was definitely a lot to clean up offensively from the two practices we saw. I still think there were some good things. I would say if I had to pick a winner, I'd say the defense. But even there were some blown coverages and things that need to get cleaned up. So it'll be interesting to see what the mood is like, in the building that Saturday. That's usually that first Saturday, first scrimmage. You kind of get a good vibe on where you're thinking. I mean, look, I hate in hindsight, like when he was so pissed off about a spring practice, there should have been some like, like where are we going here? So we'll see what the vibes are like on Saturday. I'm just as curious as you to see what type of mood we're in there.
Yeah. And Jalen, we talked about this. Aaron and I talked about it a little bit last week because Bush Hamden, I think he might be talking to Tom Leach or something. He was on.
Oh, was that the football luncheon?
Okay. Yeah, there.
With Tom. Yeah, Tom was there.
Yeah, and I think he was on Tom's. I think he did a hit on Tom's show like you do through the week.
Oh, okay.
And
I missed this then.
He and Jalen, you're installing the offense, brand new at a new institution, new school, just like he is. And it just stood out to me. It just, we do this last year. We all talked about stuff that catches our ear from a player or from a coach or whatever. But he said that, and I think it's hard, especially in year one. He said that he's trying to run what they're running now, run the same thing in week 5 or 6. He said, we want to be working on stuff now that we'll be doing 4, 5, 6 weeks into the season, which has got to be hard because you kind of shuffling through what works, what doesn't work, what fits personnel, what doesn't. But he wants to be efficient. You don't want to be wasting time now working and running on stuff that he's not going to be running in week 7, week 4, week 5. So are you kind of going through that same thing? And I'm sure you can relate to what he was trying to say.
Yeah. And, the high school and college game is so different when it comes to amount of time and the level of student athlete that you're dealing with and whatnot that you're coaching. But at the end of the day, football is football. So, yeah, you want to be – I even say in spring, man, you want to be running the things that you're going to run during the season. You never want to get into a situation where you're installing plays and you don't – and you're spending a lot of time on them and you don't run them. Because now you're probably running things that you haven't spent a lot of time on. And are your players as good? Have they seen all the situations, permutations, alterations of that scheme against, X amount of defenses? So you always want to, now what they do is, so throughout the offseason, that's why I say these college coaches, man, I don't know, they don't sleep much, especially with recruiting. Because in the offseason, you're also breaking down opponents that you got to play in the future. So they may have an install tomorrow, and it may consist of a defense that they're going against that they won't see until Louisville. They won't see until week 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So they may be going against a defense that they may not see until November. But they're throwing little things out there. Now, they're not telling the players that. They just holding up a card for the scout team and say, hey, look, line up in this defense. This is what we're doing. This is the blitz we're running. But this is the blitz that Tennessee runs. But the scout team may not know that. Or this is the coverage that Tennessee likes to run on 3rd and 8 or 3rd and long. But the scout team may not know that. So they're always preparing ahead of time and putting game plans away. So they've already done the game plan for Tennessee. Now, obviously, things change in the season, right? Tennessee's doing something different this year, or we got an injury here, or we moved this guy to this position and we like these concepts instead of this. We thought we were going to like these plays, but we like these even more, or we like these better based on our personnel. So that it always changes, but the base game plan, breaking down a team, was already done in the summer. That's already been done. So they'll pick up where they left off and watch the games from the previous 7 games from the coming season to game plan them more specifically. But they've already have a gist of what they like to do against that defense that they're playing. So that's already done. And they've already been working that stuff. So instead of running a Y cross concept or running a dagger concept with Macklin at the slot, they may like this concept with Macklin outside against this particular team. And, out at the outside receiver. So those little tweaks, and that's just the chess game. That's what's fun for coaches, man. They get it. That's the fun thing that they get a chance to do in the offseason. So, but to answer your question, to go back, yes, you want to build up reps. And that's what, and I know people hate to hear this, that's what makes Tennessee so good on offense. They Tennessee runs the same plays over and over.
Over and over.
It's just their pass concepts. The slot receiver, outside receiver may have 4 different options. So it never looks the same or rarely looks the same. But they're running the same concepts over and over. I just got done watching one of their games against Florida from last year. And they literally ran the same concept 30 times. And I'm not even exaggerating. And it's just different. It looks different on film because if the defense gives you this, you do this. They give you this, you do that. And it's over and over and over again. So they can kind of, when they get to Kentucky, they've run that concept literally 30,000 times since spring ball. Like for real, when it comes to 707 team, routes on there, walkthroughs, they've run that concept 30,000 times before they get to play Kentucky. And that's why, it don't matter who they play, it don't matter where they play, they can always roll out there and do what they do. Now, you get some teams, like a lot of the pro-style type teams, where it's really specific to a potential game plan or to a potential team. So if that team come out and do something different, you get some coaches who are so locked in on what they like to do against every particular look, where you go in the game and you got these specific looks built in and the defense don't give you that. And now it takes you to have time to adjust. And I just got done watching a video on, what's his name? LaFleur.
Yep. Packers.
No, his brother.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Was it Mike LaFleur?
Yeah.
With the Rams. And he was saying how, nowadays you don't know what defense is going to do. He was like, pro quarterbacks will lie to you and say that they know, but they don't know. Because the way defenses are constructed nowadays, you got to have plays that are good against everything. You got to have what we call all-weather plays. So, I say that to say, yes, you want to do what you want. You want to do what you do and do it over and over and over and over and over again. You may change your formation. You may change your motion. You may change a shift. But at the end of the day, the concept, the crux of the play, the meat and bones of the play doesn't change.
Tennessee game last year was Billy Napier's signature win at this point of the season, too.
Signature win at Florida, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. First year.
That's his biggest win of his career right now. But
yeah.
Yikes.
Oh, and you mentioned, you mentioned something else too when you was talking, Jalen, that I was meant to try to have us talk about it too. You said the very thing. Oh yeah, running the same play over and over again. And I don't know if you know a percentage of teams that do that. You hear it a lot. We just run the same thing over and over, just dressing it up, just changing it.
Kentucky 2019.
Yeah, putting the eye candy in there. So it's to the point that it at least makes the defense think there might be something else.
What's the officer? Eddie Graham. Eddie Graham was a genius at that. Call it what you want. Yeah. A lot of people don't like Eddie Graham, whatever. But
they couldn't throw the ball, so they'd be creative in the run game.
He was a genius in the run game. They were running the same plays, and it just looks different over and over and over again. Nobody could stop it. So, at the end of the day, it was good.
Yeah. Just here it is. He just dared people to stop it, basically.
There.
Yeah,
again, like 2019, like the 8-game stretch that they had Lynn playing quarterback is one of the best offensive coordinator jobs I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just, you had to change everything. And you're like, all right, we're going to run the same play over and over again, but dress it differently. And they obviously had 3 running backs who had good years that year too, but still, just an amazing, amazing job he did.
And had they got to Lynn sooner, they tried Sawyer. If they get to Lynn early in the South Carolina
they would have won that South Carolina game because the second he came in, they went down the field and scored. So, yeah, I was at that. I covered that game. That was brutal. But, that's what we were all saying. Like, well, at the end, they were kind of like in that press conference, they're kind of like, all right, like now we know what to do. And then they go out and they win their next, I think they finished 6-2 the last 8 games. So, and they were a goal line stand away from going 7-1 to beat Tennessee.
And what? Up 13-0 and lost 17-13, I think. If I'm not mistaken.
Typical UK Tennessee. Typical UK Tennessee.
Hey, that game is huge this year. They got to win that one.
Yeah, I keep going back to, like, if you want to even start talking about the season you could have, go beat Auburn and South Carolina. Those and Louisville. You got to group Louisville into that. But those 3 games are like must wins. And then you if you want a special year, you got to either flip Tennessee, Texas, or Ole Miss or Georgia, which is that's not gonna happen. But you got to flip one of those 3 to kind of have that. Honestly, like, it's not crazy with the 12-team playoff now, because they have I think I saw they're the 4th hardest schedule in the country, which sounds about right. If they go 9-3, like, you're in the conversation to be in the top 12 with that schedule. If you go 9-3, you're in the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Because if you lose to Georgia,
say you lose to Georgia, Ole Miss, and Texas,
that means you beat Tennessee.
You beat Auburn at home. Yeah. You beat Louisville, who's, fringe top 25, maybe depending on how they do in, the ACC. Like, you'd have to, I think maybe not if Tennessee. If you go 9-3, even if you lose to Tennessee and you steal either Ole Miss, Texas, or Georgia somehow, some way.
Yeah.
At 9-3, you're in the conversation, in my opinion. I don't know how you can't be. If you have one of those, because I think we'll see what the AP poll is. Usually the coaches poll is just about the same, if not exactly the same. But the coaches poll, Kentucky will play Georgia, who's number 1, Texas, who's number 4, Ole Miss, and Texas, by the way, lost their starting running back for the season today. That was tough to hear there, CJ Baxter. But he's out for the year. But still, absolutely hate seeing that. But Texas is number 4. Ole Miss is number 6. You don't have to play Missouri this year, but they're 11. Tennessee's 14. And then, right outside that top 25, Louisville's 27. Florida is just past Kentucky. They would be like 37-ish. South Carolina 38. So, look, it's a strong schedule. And if you go 9-3 and get a top 10, top 15 win, like, I'm not saying that guarantees you one of the 12 spots, because, there can be a lot of good teams. You figure that, and one spot goes to a group of 5 already, so you're really kind of working with 11. If they go 9-3 and get one of those wins, they have a case. That's all.
They definitely. Why wouldn't you have a case?
They have a legit, and if not, they'll get the best. I don't know what even is a New Year's Six bowl anymore, anyway, but they'll get the next best. But they absolutely would have a case for one of those. I'll say 11 because one does go to a group of 5.
You're going to get a Big 12 team that go 10-2 and don't get in.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they would have a better case against. Let's see, who's Utah is number 13, right? They go 10-2 in the Big 12. I'd love that argument. And maybe it won't be Kentucky that does that, but like Missouri goes 9-3 and has that type of thing. Who are you going to give it to? Can't wait to see how that goes.
And with Kentucky's schedule, you can take the 3 losses as dice and put them, no matter how you align the 3 losses, there's good wins enough to put them in the mix. Like you're saying, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
If you lose to Georgia, okay, fine. Then put the other 2 somewhere, no matter how you arrange it.
Yeah.
If they were to get 9 wins.
If they were to get 9 wins with this schedule, they're in the conversation. Mm-hmm. There's no question. And I think preferably you do 9 and not be 10. I think Tennessee, they're going to be good. I don't think it's going to be like enough to put you over the top. You'd prefer to sneak an Ole Miss, Texas, or Georgia, but even beating Tennessee, it'll make it at least you'll be in that conversation. But if you steal one from Ole Miss, Texas, or Georgia now, and 9-3, you're really in it.
I don't see anybody going undefeated this year in the country.
I don't either. I don't either.
I do have a dark horse playoff pick though.
All right, who is it?
University of Central Florida.
Yeah, I think. I mean, look, the Big 12. They are
Big
not.
12
It's not the same.
It's not. And
Look, KJ Jefferson was an All SEC quarterback going into last
KJ
year.
Jefferson is the leading passer in Arkansas football history.
that's actually wild.
And people don't. I mean, that's a real thing. Now, obviously, he was there forever, but that's a
pretty good
real
program.
thing. And what Malzahn does with quarterbacks like that, every year Gus Malzahn has a quarterback like that. Just go look at his track record, man. And I was watching him earlier, and I like Gus Malzahn. I mean, I think he's
I think he's a good coach.
I think he's one of the best coaches in the country, personally. Now, it kind of last couple of years has been different, but what he does with teams, I mean, shoot, he took 2014 Auburn. Auburn was, a couple plays away from beating Florida State.
Oh yeah,
they had him.
They had him beat.
If the corner doesn't gamble, if he don't try to jump the route and just keep everything in front of him, they beat Florida State. I think.
Look at Florida State roster compared to Auburn's. Malzahn has beaten Nick Saban.
Dude, they had Nick Marshall. No offense to Nick Marshall, he's a wide receiver playing quarterback, basically.
Yeah,
well, we know about that.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's my dark horse.
I like it. No, well, before the season, we'll have to do not only Kentucky State games, but pick our 12. But that's an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting one. But again, like 10 wins with this schedule, you're in. But this is not going to happen, I don't think. But 9 would put you you'd be in that conversation. There ain't no doubt about it.
Yeah, so we got next week's the 14th. Second place the 31st.
We'll do it 2 weeks before the season.
So that
we'll want to just preview the game the week before. But we'll do it 2 weeks before. We'll do it I guess not next Wednesday, the Wednesday after.
Yeah,
I think that would be. Yeah, we'll do it that one. So for those who love predictions, that's when we'll do it. 12-team playoff in Kentucky game by game.
That'll work. That'll work. And actual games happen on the 24th. So
perfect time to do it. Get it done before, because I think Florida State plays that week, so they could if they get upset, that could blow our predictions off. So there we go.
That's it.
I mean they're in my 12, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Oh, AG, man, you got anything else? You got any other stories?
Nothing. Yeah, now it's all a lot of fall camp coverage, and that's basically it for me right now. I mean, obviously behind the scenes doing some basketball yearbook prep. We can finish with this. I saw John Rothstein pick Kentucky to finish 9th in the SEC, and I'll give him some slack because it is really hard with the teams that are entirely new. It is hard to know exactly how it's going to go, but I'll just say when I've been going through it and doing all these SEC pages, I have them tentatively finishing 5th, which I think for a first-year head coach in this league is not bad. So I have them behind Alabama, Tennessee, Auburn, and Alabama winning the conference. I have them behind Tennessee and Auburn. I forgot what order, and then I have them behind Florida. But that's it as of now.
Yeah, I can see them being in the middle of the top tier, not middle of the pack.
I think we're looking 5 to 7 range for year one, which is not terrible in this league. But I think 9 is a little I'm going through some of these rosters, and I think 9's a little much. I do agree the SEC is really good. You could get 9 to 10 teams in the tournament, no doubt. But I don't think, looking at A&M and what they lost, I know they bring back Wade Taylor for year 15, but they lost Boots Radford. That I just think they're bound to take a little bit of step back. South Carolina is not going to be as good this year. I don't think Oklahoma's that good at all. Texas is all right. I think Arkansas, Kentucky, Texas, that 5 through 7, it's going to be interesting to see where they fly out. I'd be surprised if the top 4, though, aren't Alabama, Tennessee, Auburn, and Florida in some order. I really would be. But I think I understand where he's coming from, because there is a lot of mystery and a lot of all right, how's this piece going to fit type of deal. But I think 9's a push. I wouldn't go 9. I would say 5 to 7 range, and I'll be optimistic and say 5 here on August 7th.
was talking to Cameron Mills earlier today, who's been on here with us, and he was mentioning, he said, "You remember last year?" He said, "We were playing. Seemed like everybody on the schedule had a 25-year-old dude on the team."
Yeah, now we have some.
Our team is full of 25-year-old dudes that have
Yeah.
played at and from that standpoint, and they played at high level other places, and so
There's no doubt.
We got more grown men than anybody, so that's got to count.
It does. And that's why I think they're in that range. I just think I don't see ninth. I can I understand where he's coming from. I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'd be surprised.
And if I'm wrong, I'll eat crow. And there's also, look, that's the danger with these things. They're trying to get trying to get some clickbait. Like, there are going to be injuries that happen between now and then. Hopefully not at Kentucky, but there could be. There could be a big injury at Florida that changes the way we look at them. But there could be a big injury at Alabama that takes them away from being kind of the national championship favorite they should be. So we'll see. We'll see what happens between now and then. But I get why he said it. I can't agree now that I've kind of gone through the entire league and started doing my research a little bit.
Mm-hmm. We did our poll. We just kind of walked our way into doing a poll last week, and I ran it for the whole week. I put it in our DM group, but Butch Hampton has said he wants to run 30 plus times a game. Mark Pope has said he wants to shoot 35 plus threes a game. And you and I were talking last week on the show, and I was like, I wonder what should happen more. We should put a poll out. What would we see more, or maybe I should have been more specific in who will achieve this in a higher percentage of games? Will Butch Hampton do this in 7 out of 12 games, which is 50 whatever percent? Would Mark Pope do it in 19 out of 40? I could have done it that way, but everybody knew else. What will happen more? It was pretty close. We got 32 votes all total, I believe, in Kentucky on Twitter. 53% in favor of Pope, 35 plus threes a game, to 47% saying Hampton 30 plus runs a game. Jalen, you think it's definitely going to be football getting 30 plus runs a game more? You did say that earlier.
Yeah, I think it's that quarterback and run, backup quarterback coming in the game, running the ball. You got a plethora of running backs who are going to be fighting for a spot. So they're going to try to figure out who's that guy, I think. And you got a team that's going to try to get more snaps in the game. So I think you're going to get, they get 70 snaps.
Yeah. Boise State had 6. Boise State I was doing a story on this earlier today. Boise State had 65 offensive snaps per game last year. That's for over 12. So, they played 14. So I divided it by 12. So that's a good estimate, I think, 65.
Yeah. So about 65 snaps per game. They're going to end up being around that 50-50 range, run pass.
Yes.
I can see it being 55-45, pass. I can see that happening. But I can't see anything more than that. I think they're going to rush the ball 30 times per game. I just, when I heard the backup quarterback thing, I was sold on it. Man. I was thinking, that's what they're going to do. And I'm not saying they're not going to pass it, but this is going to be a team that runs play action, and they're going to throw the ball down the field, I think, more than what past Kentucky teams have done. Throwing the ball vertically, taking shots, play action shots vertically. I absolutely love what they do in the play action game. Actually, when I get off of here, I'm going to go back and watch some Boise State film from last year.
Nice.
See what I can steal from your boy Butch Hampton. But I think I'm excited for this year. But anytime you got a team and you got to figure out what you got early, they're going to try to be physical. I know Mark Stoops too well. They're going to run that ball, man. They're gonna run their football. No matter who they got at quarterback, that ball's going to get handed off. They're going to run it. So we'll see.
Which way did you end up leaning, Aaron?
I would say running the ball because of the quarterbacks. I would say that. But if Devin Leary was the quarterback of this team, I'd say the threes, because you look at I think let's see. I'm interested to see now if I can do this real quick. If not, we can save it. But I know obviously that BYU shot the second most pointers per game last season. I don't know what their game per game total exactly was. They took 33 attempts per game 32 last year. So is it really going to increase from that? I don't know. I know they've said that it's going to be a game by game basis too, right? Like if you have a big lead on someone, are you really going to go stretch threes, or are you going to kind of take the air out of the ball a little bit and just try to take the shot clock down and kill the game? So I'll say run because the quarterbacks. I think, like you said, Jay, Gavin Wimstad's going to run the ball. We know Brock Vandegrift's a guy who can do stuff with his legs. He ran all over Kentucky in the fourth quarter in Athens last year. So I'll lean with the football side of things because of the quarterbacks.
And I can definitely see what y'all are saying too, especially when you factor in the quarterback run. That'll definitely boost you getting close to 30. I leaned basketball. I think both of them will probably try to go out and be
do those things.
Be men of their words. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if Kentucky goes 9-3, I think definitely they'll be running 30 plus times a game. But if they, defense not doing what they're supposed to do and they get behind, they're having to pass more.
Then they have to. Yeah.
And I think that could possibly knock them down.
And I think, that
Rick Pitino in his first year, I'm old enough to remember his first year. They shot 876 threes in his first year in 1989, and they were 14-14. They didn't have weren't talented. I think that averaged out to like 28.9 threes per game. So I'm like, man, but he didn't even shoot that many, but he was way ahead of his time.
Yes.
I'm like 28-29 for 1989. I'm like, is that the new 35 in 2024? And I'm like, it could be, especially with all the shooters that they have. If they can't do anything, they're going to be able to shoot the rock. If they can't dribble, they can't set screens, they can't do anything. They got a bunch of snipers on that team. So that I lean basketball maybe doing it a little more, but I think both of them are really going to be hovering right around what they plan on doing. It's not just saying it just to say it. I really think both dudes are really out there trying to hit 30 and 35 for what they said, though.
Yeah, I agree. If there was an option to choose both, I probably would have chosen both. You don't have all those shooters on the squad for no reason, man. They're gonna pull them. So we'll see. I'm just excited to see two new teams in the conference, especially basketball. It's gonna be interesting in basketball because Texas is a proud program. I mean, you got Oklahoma coming over here, which I don't know if Oklahoma's gonna be any good, but it's just in football we already know what it's gonna be, man. This is gonna be the most competitive the SEC has ever been.
I can't wait.
Just take Vanderbilt out of the equation. And I shouldn't say that because Vanderbilt beat Kentucky 2 years ago, but
take them out.
Let's take them out of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
And you may be able to take Georgia. And I won't even say that because I think Georgia has an extremely tough schedule, especially on the road. They got to go to Ole Miss. They got to go to Bama.
Yeah.
They got to go to Texas. I think. Is it Texas? Yeah, I think they go to Texas. It's just tough, man. I'm glad they moved that thing to 12 teams because you're going to see really, really dominant teams that's going to have 2 and 3 losses in the regular season.
No doubt. No doubt.
And I think this is what, the parity thing is going to become more NFL-ish. You watch, I forgot the stat. There's so many NFL games that come down to one score. And I think that's what they're reaching for in college because everybody's tired of seeing that playoff game or that game at the end of the season, the last game of the season where it's like 60-6, and everybody's turned it off by halftime. So, it's going to be an exciting year, man, for football. Can't wait.
And last thing, when you were on last, Jalen, we were all, which they fell short of the $1 million, but La Familia was about to play Louisville, and you were like, man, I can't wait for that on Monday night. And it turned out being more the same. Kentucky just beat them again, went to Louisville and beat them again.
Yeah. That TBT stuff is fun, man. I just can imagine how fun it is for the guys that's playing. And Tyler Euler's coaching it. He gonna be, he may be a head coach at some point.
Mhm.
But that's extremely fun. I enjoy that. I always enjoy watching like former players that's not in the NBA that probably got regular jobs now, but they competing in something like this. That's fun. They can still hoop though. They still in shape. They can still play, and they get a chance to compete against other schools and whatnot. That's extreme. They should do something like that for football. They really should, like 707-ish. I bet you that's coming down the pipe, though. I bet you that's coming down the pipe. A 707 team for Georgia, Bama, Texas, Florida, Kentucky, SEC ball, and they're going to play for a championship. They're going to have a 707 team, and they're going to play like once a week. I bet you that's coming down the pipe. I bet you that's coming. I can only imagine that's coming. It's just too much. It's too much money, and people want to watch that. Like, people would turn on their TV, and instead of watching whatever they watch on Wednesday nights or whatever, or Friday nights or whatever, they'll turn on their TV and watch that. They'll watch, what's the dude's name? Connor Shaw from South Carolina have a 707 squad playing against Aaron Murray.
Wow.
They absolutely
wow.
They would turn. I need to create that. This is a business. Stop talking.
You made it.
They would. I would turn on my TV and watch that. Like, I would watch that. Like, I would go back and watch. Okay, how did this go? And you got AJ Green for Georgia out here. He's retired. He can go out and play 707 once a week. I mean, like, people would do that. Like, that's a real thing.
Would you play? Would you play?
If it's during football season, it'd be tough because I'm coaching and doing. But if it wasn't during football season, yes, I would.
Okay,
let's go.
Yes, no doubt, I would play. I feel like I can still spin it. I can still run. I'm still in the gym. I'm blessed to be able to move around, so I would still play. No doubt.
So you have to have some kind of name for it. But I mean, we can't just say the SEC equivalent to the TBT. You have to come up with. So we got to have some kind of little quick, something that pops, some kind of little marketing name that pops, and then
and put it on TV. Now you got Olympics this year, but put it on TV on that during that downtime where the NBA Finals is over, and you got that break, and people don't want to watch baseball. You got that break between now and football season or whatever. Put it on TV then. Have it, a 10-game season or 8-game season, and you play play a little small playoff in a weekend or whatever, or 2 weekends, and play a championship game, and people would watch that, man. Like, that would be. You could put that on ESPN, it would get better ratings than a Sunday night baseball game.
So you just answered your own question. You would play if it's right after the finals, 8 weeks. That's before your season starts, so you would be playing.
I would be suited up.
Let's go.
All right. So shoot, man. Look, we just accomplished all kind of stuff in this episode, man. We got the coverage from the week of practice, from Aaron, the fan day, the media day. Thoughts on John Rothstein picking Kentucky 9th, and now the framework for a summer 7-on-7 SEC football league. Just had some seeds, a brainstorm of seeds sprouting. And here we go. All right, man. Fun episode, y'all. Fun episode. Look forward to doing it again next week. AG, man, looking forward to whatever else you glean from the pressers. We're watching from afar, and you're right there. We see you putting your phone up there. We see you right off to the side. We see you in everybody's videos, getting your questions in and doing your thing. So we look forward to it. I always appreciate the content. Appreciate both of y'all coming in here, bringing us the knowledge each and every week. Y'all subscribe on YouTube, follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Got the link tree on Twitter with all the stuff. Follow and subscribe and keep up. That way, as soon as it goes live, y'all don't miss nothing. You can already, just pop on your phone or device, and there it is. Instead of having to go look for us, we'll already be right there coming to you. Kind of like that Autograph app. You can find our podcast in there, as well as all the other content that you listen to as well. So appreciate y'all. Enjoy what's left of the summer. Football's getting closer and closer.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate Jalen and Aaron each and every week. Another episode of Believe Kentucky on the Believe Podcast Network. We'll holler at y'all next week. Go Cats.